Bitcoin. It's the world's first electronic currency, or cryptocurrency. Bitcoins are a virtual currency that can be spent from your electronic device, computer, or mobile phone. Bitcoins are stored in a virtual wallet on your computer, and transactions can be made from peer-to-peer worldwide in exchange for goods from an ever-growing number of retailers, a lot like internet banking. In order to access your Bitcoin wallet, you require a 51-digit password known as a public key. A second 51-digit password is also required, known as a private key. This password is needed for any transactions between you and other Bitcoin accounts. Bitcoins can be created through a process called mining, using a Bitcoin miner program which uses the power of your computer to solve complex mathematical algorithms in order to unlock Bitcoins and reap the rewards. Bitcoins are in limited supply and are introduced into existence gradually. The supply of Bitcoins is strictly capped to 21 million Bitcoins, not all of which have been mined. Unlike every other currency in existence, there is no centralized financial institutions or banks controlling the value of the currency or charging fees. Get your
So I mined Bitcoin for approximately 7 days, after which I was worried that the hard drive or the laptop would fail because it was getting so hot and it was on 24/7. Not only that, is that I had a 6-month-old baby at the time, and the fan noises were actually waking him up in the middle of the night. So the missus said, you know, I'm going to have to stop doing that. And at the time, I agreed with her because it was literally monopoly money, you know. Although I suspected that this was going to become a big thing, you know, like I said earlier, you know, I had no crystal ball. And it was more of a gamble than anything else. So I stopped mining completely, and then obviously my funds went on to other things because I was renovating the house and redecorating the house at the time. When I first downloaded the Bitcoin client, I wrote down my public and private keys in 2 separate places on 2 separate pieces of paper. Now I put those pieces of paper, one of them went into the documents folder of my car, and the other one went into the back of a photo frame. Now the photo frame was given to my nan as a Christmas present in 2010, and the document that went into my document folder of my vehicle has stayed there until 2013. So I stopped mining Bitcoins, continued using that laptop as my main laptop throughout the rest of 2009 until approximately October, November time, when I accidentally spilled a glass of lemonade on the laptop. You know, being an IT engineer, I know the first thing you do is turn the laptop off completely, power down. I took the laptop apart, cleaned out all the residue, dried it out, put it back together, and the laptop worked. You know, the hard drive still worked. However, it would blue screen every now and again. And being an IT engineer myself, working on computers all day, the last thing you want to do when you come home from work is fix a computer. So I decided to sort of get rid of that one. And buy a Mac in early 2010. Broke apart the laptop into individual pieces, sold the screen and the graphics and the processor and the RAM, motherboards and the case, etc. But I kept the hard drive. Everything else went on eBay, but I kept the hard drive in a drawer in my office. And it stayed there for 3 years. And when that arrived, I transferred all over my documents, my media, songs, etc., all over to my new Mac without a problem. Didn't transfer the Bitcoin client folder over because it wouldn't have worked on a Mac. I changed operating systems. You know, it's the first time I'd gone from a Windows to a Mac. and at the time it was still internet play money. So the day that I actually threw the drive out, I remember it clearly. I turned around on my chair, picked the drive out of the drawer, and actually had a thought to myself, it's been there for 3.5 years. You've not needed anything from it now. The likelihood that you'll need something from it is quite low, So it went in the bin behind me, and God's honest truth, at the time that I put the drive into the bin, I had a little thought in the back of my head, that's a bad idea. But in it went, and I was about to take it out, and one of the kids were downstairs crying, screaming, playing up, and I got distracted and called downstairs, and it just stayed in the bin then instead. At that point, I didn't realise, what I'd done. It was only a few weeks later, I think it was mid-October, that I started seeing stories about Silk Road. And this is the first I'd heard about Bitcoin since I'd stopped back in 2009. I hadn't heard any of the news that had gone on and the events that had gone on in between. So I read it on the Bitcoin Silk Road story, and obviously that led to me checking out the price. What I'd done, I instantly remembered how many I had. I didn't, exactly know what my public address was, but I knew how many coins I had, and as soon as I did the calculation, it was a oh no moment, because I instantly remembered that my Bitcoins were stored on that hard drive that I threw away a few months prior. Went up to my nan's house to ask her where the photo frame was that I gave her in 2010. Unfortunately, she mentioned that a few months prior to that, it had fallen off the wall and smashed, and she'd bought a new frame. However, there was not enough spaces in the new frame to accommodate all the photos that were in the old one. So she said, yeah, you can go and have a look, it's on the wall. So I went and got it off the wall, and lo and behold, the photo that I needed was not in the back of the new photo frame. It must have been one of the ones that didn't get added to the new frame, unfortunately. So the public and private key that I put into my vehicle document folder, that vehicle is actually parked in my mum's garage at the moment. So in early 2013, I was up cleaning the car, and I came across my document folder, and I was throwing out all my old receipts, things like tyre receipts and old MOTs and things like that, everything that I didn't need. And I came across a piece of paper with a long code on it, and when I looked at it, didn't have the slightest clue what it was for. And the piece of paper I took out, and I didn't immediately put it in the bin. All my other receipts and things I did. And this piece of paper with the code in, because I knew it was for something important, otherwise it wouldn't have been put there in the first place, but I couldn't remember what for. And I was scrolling the piece of paper up in my hand. It must have been in my hand for about an hour. And I say that's the moment fate was deciding whether I get my coin, my riches or not. So I had this piece of paper in my hand for an hour, just twirling around, playing with it. And I walked up the stairs, and I can't remember whether I actually threw this piece of paper into the bin, or if I threw it into a box upstairs in my mum's house somewhere. Now, obviously, I've been through every box there is in the house. I've looked at every single piece of paper we own, and I can't find it anywhere. So the only logical conclusion is that I threw it in the bin. Yeah, so the one thing that I can't keep getting off my brain is the fact that technically I'm a millionaire. However, I can't actually spend any of it. And the way I've been explaining it to people is, if you imagine, a big wallet with $7.5 million in it, and a big padlock on the outside, you can walk around with that money. You can put it in your back pocket, but without the 51-digit code that I need, you can't take any out and spend it. So, I can take the coins with me. I found my public address, so I can verify that nobody else has stolen them or taken them away. But I can't spend any of the contents because I don't have the 51-digit private key. I knew that I threw the drive away, but I still looked in the drawer to see if it was there, Crazy sort of moment. So the manager took me up to the pit that they're currently working on at the moment, and as soon as I seen the scale of what would be required, the first thought that I had to myself was no chance. We're looking for something the size of an iPhone, in an area the size of approximately 2 football pitches, with rows of dirt piled up high as houses, where the drive could be 5 feet under the current level. Some people might think that I completely hate Bitcoin and completely against Bitcoin, although you couldn't be further from the truth. If I were able to hack or get my Bitcoins back in any way, it would disprove the theory of Bitcoin altogether. The security wouldn't exist anymore. So the fact that I can't get my coins back proves that Bitcoin is secure, and is doing what it says on the tin. I still believe in Bitcoin. I've bought Bitcoins since I've lost my hoard, and I'm also in the process of beginning a Bitcoin-related business. My personal opinion is we're about 1/4 of the way there to the vision that I had when I first downloaded the white paper in 2009.